Welcome to the British GT Championship here at Silverstone, and this week we've got something a little bit different for you. Not only are the drivers racing on the full Grand Prix circuit, they also have a 2-hour race ahead of them, and it should really push them all a lot harder. At Castle Combe last time out, things looked like they were going the way of the Embassy team. But the pressure from Nathan Kinch in the Ferrari proved too much, and Neil Cunningham was forced to take a bit of evasive action, which cost him the lead.
Look down the inside from Nathan Kinch. Oh, he's alongside. I don't think Neil Cunningham was quite expecting that, but they're still side by side as they head up towards the chicane. Now the Ferrari's got the line. Neil has to go straight on to avoid contact, and it's the race lead to the Ferrari.
Castle Combe was a real nightmare for me, especially. Nathan caught me in the second part of the race, and it was a proper race. We had to measure him for a little bit. I made a mistake, and he went on to win. And I got in a lot of trouble when I got back. The grass had just been mowed like a week earlier, and there was just a lot of dead grass, and that came up into the radiators, and another half a lap, and it would have cooked the engine. So as soon as I went over the grass, I knew I was in trouble. If I had kept going, the engine would have blown up, and it's like £50,000 for an engine, so it's a very expensive mistake.
The action at Castle Combe went all the way when the Marcus of Chris Baton snatched the lead from the UCB Ferrari to take GT3 honours on the last lap.
The final lap, can he go through? I think he's got a chance, yes. The Marcus goes ahead. Oh, the team have seen it. The team have seen it. They know he's in front. And it's going to be Chris Baton to take the win for Team Tiger in GT3.
Fantastic weekend for us, great for the team, good result, as you know, and I think it's something that all the crowd and everybody enjoyed. It was a fairly dramatic finish, and this time it went our way, so it was a great result.
Now, how are you looking for this weekend? It's a 2-hour race at Silverstone.
Well, we've not qualified particularly well, and we've not found the car particularly good on pace, but we've done some alterations this morning to it and a try different setup, and we're hoping the race is 2 hours. We're usually fairly good in those sort of longer endurance races, and we're hoping the car stays on the pace and comes good at the end.
And there's a very big grid today, so there should be a lot of action going on out on the track.
There should be a lot of action. Let's just hope it's the right action and there's not too many comings together.
The Nissan team has a full touring car lineup this weekend. Alongside their regular driver, ex-BTCC challenger Michael Bentwood, is Anthony Reid.
I've had a difficult start to the year. I had a contract with MG Rover, and you know what happened there. So I've been trying to pick up my career from there. I raced, had a lot of fun with the Scuderia Cos at Le Mans this year. But I'm forging old links with Nissan. Of course, you might remember 6 years ago I enjoyed a lot of success in the British touring cars with the Nissan Primera. And they've asked me to do a one-off race this weekend, and I'm very much, looking forward to renewing my partnership with people like Bob Neville and Nigel Dixon. Some of the old muckers I used to work with 6 years ago.
Well, the Ferraris are 1-2 here on the grid, and there is a chance that Andrew Kirkcaldy and Nathan Kinch could wrap up the championship this weekend, but they have got a 2-hour race ahead of them. Here's Ben.
The Scuderia Cars team has maintained its 100% qualifying record. Andrew Kirkcaldy starts the number 35 car, while Canadian businessman Chris Niarchos is at the wheel of the sister car. The Eclipse Motorsport Moser is next with Phil Keane to make the initial running, and Ben Collins is in the Embassy Porsche. The Eurotech car, number 77, is being driven by Michael Caine. Then it's the Nissan, which starts from 6th place, and it's Anthony Reid who'll drive the first stint. The Gardena GTC Mosler starts 7th with Barry White at the wheel. Fastest car in the invitation class is the Motorbase Quaife Porsche. Sean Edwards making his GT debut, and the fastest official GT3 qualifier is the car of Phil Quaife and Stuart Mosley. Right, well, we've got those two Scuderia Cos teammates heading out of Luffield as we get ready for the start of this 2-hour-long race here at Silverstone. Andrew Kirkcaldy and Nathan Kinch could wrap up the British GT Championship here today, and it's Kirkcaldy who starts from pole position. Away we go, we're on board with Ben Collins in the Embassy Racing Porsche. And you can see that Andrew Kirkcody's been able to take his line wide into Cobb's corner as Phil Keane comes through on the inside, grabs the spot. David Jones gets a bit out of shape in the number 22 Porsche, but everybody's got through the first corner safely. We're riding on board here with Hector Lester up towards Beckett's turn. Oh, and he's lost it! He's lost it! Just stays off the wall, does he? Yes. Oh, that was close.
Okay, Joanna was pushed out.
Oh, and Hector reporting he was pushed out of the race. Well, Andrew Kirkcody leads, but Phil Keane now trying to take second place, and he's done so. Rob, this is a pretty exciting first lap, certainly for Hector Lester, but even for the front runners as well.
Phil Keane having a fantastic first lap, Ben, driving really aggressively and a good clean overtaking manoeuvre there into Stowe on the first lap. Great.
Now watch Anthony Reid in the all-blue Nissan. Now it's changed colour scheme for this weekend. Barry White just behind him in the number 2 Mosler. Anthony Reid, of course, plenty of experience in touring cars, massive sports car experience, perhaps not so much just recently, but he'll be enjoying getting into the swing of a longer distance race. But problems for David Ashburn. In fact, he's pulling off. Too much damage to the front end of that car.
You can see coolant spilling out of the front left corner there as well. All the Porsche's radiators are in the front, and that could have been the consequence of the damage with Hector Lester.
Oh, look at Oliver Bryant. He's making a couple of places here, I think. He just got past Jamie Smythe, and I think he managed to also get past Andy Britnell at the same time. Pretty impressive stuff, this from Ollie Bryant in the Morgan. Oh, but we've got the safety car out.
Yeah, the safety car's out on the grid. Number of incidents on that opening lap, and I'd imagine it's to remove Hector Lester from the gravel trap there, Ben.
Well, the car's racing back to the line, of course, before they get that safety car board. But now they've got to settle down, slow down. As you can see, it's all getting a bit leery behind. But it's Andrew Kirkcody who leads, with Phil Keane up to second place, ahead of the other Ferrari of Chris Niarchos. Then Ben Collins in the Embassy Porsche, Anthony Reid in the Nissan, Michael Caine in the Eurotech Porsche. But I'm afraid not able to get out onto the track at all so far has been the Ferrari of Phil Burton. A lot of work going on beneath that machine, and they've not been able to join in so far. Ben Collins right at the wheel of just going past that stricken car of Hector Lester up there at Beckett's corner. I don't quite know what David Jones is up to.
No, I don't either. He's overtaking the trainer cars as they follow the safety car, which is strictly prohibited. So no, I'd imagine he'll be in trouble when he gets back to the pit lane. Unless,
of course, he lets them back past, which he seems to be doing now. He seems to be slowing down again, so I'm not quite sure what David was up to then. Take another look at what happened to Hector Lester.
So he's accelerating hard, coming out of Cobb's corner up to Maggott's curve, and the back end just slides around. Whether he was hit, we don't know, maybe, but he just slides off into the gravel. And Diana's in the pits with Mike Jordan.
Mike, the safety car has come out pretty quickly in this race. I know it's a 2-hour endurance race, but how's that going to change your strategy today?
I mean, with the weather as it is now, we were definitely going to change rear tyres when we pit stopped. Probably we won't do that now because you know, they've had very little use for the first half an hour there, so it depends on what Michael says when he comes in. But certainly, if it might be a little bit damp, I'd rather go out on warm tyres, even though they're a little bit more worn.
Now, obviously, you could spoil the Kirkcody-Kinch party today, because if they don't beat you, then they don't clinch the title. Has this scenario worked in your favour or against them?
It's probably helped a little bit. I'd love to spoil their party, I really would, but I think it's still going to be damn difficult to do it, but we'll give it our best shot.
So safety car lights are out, it's heading into the pits. We're about to get racing underway again here at Silverstone, and it's Andrew Kirkcody who leads in the Ferrari, Phil Keane in the Mosler running in second place, third place for Chris Niarchos, but right behind him is Ben Collins in the Embassy Porsche. He's lining him up, he's going to go for it down the inside into Cobb's corner. There's not quite the space, Niarchos is late on the brakes, and Ben Collins stays in fourth position.
And we can see just to the right-hand side of the racing line there, loads of chalk dust coming up from coolant, I think, that was dropped from that Porsche we saw early on. That might affect things as the race progresses. And we see rain now as we ride on board with Anthony Reid in the Nissan.
Oh, this is going to make life pretty exciting. You can see a lot of cloud around. It does look as though we're in for some changeable conditions. And as we ride in fifth place there with Anthony Reid in the Nissan, he's chasing after Ben Collins, and behind him Michael Caine in the Eurotech Porsche. But Andrew Kirkcody, the man who with Nathan Kinch has won all the races bar one this year. Look at the teams getting ready their intermediate and their wet tyres. They are certainly being fairly cautious. That was the Ferrari team, and they're prepared for just about anything, Rob.
They are, and Andrew Cocotti really isn't getting away from Phil Keane in the Eclipse Motorsport Mosler. That's fantastic to see. So often this year the Scuderia Cost driver has just driven away from the other competitors, whereas Phil's keeping him honest and pushing very hard in the Mosler.
The Mosler, a big American muscle car. It's powered by V8 American power in mid-engine configuration like a Ferrari. Look at the battle that's going on here, though, in GT3. There's the championship leader, car number 9, Dimitri Deverikos at the wheel of that one. But Phil Quaife is actually leading the class. We've got the Marcos in second, Oliver Bryant in the Morgan in third. So Deverikos in fourth position. And there is John Finnemore. Seeing how Chris Baton's getting on in the Marcos. They were winners last time out at Castle Combe, and they're putting Phil Quaife under pressure here.
Absolutely great to see the GT3 battle running so close together, and riding on board in the Morgan we can see how much pressure Phil Quaife is being put under by the Marcos ahead of them.
So quite different types of car. We've got the Porsche, the Marcos, then the Morgan. And they've made contact, those two just ahead. Oh, it's a chance for Ollie Bryant. My goodness, that could have been a big shot.
It could. That was big contact at high speed as they came into Maggott's curve there. Very, very quick, probably 140 miles an hour at that bit of circuit. So very lucky to both of them stay out of the wall.
Just take another look at this. They tangled, didn't they, as they came out of the corner?
Yeah, as they drew the cars back across to the right for Maggott's, the left-hander, they just tangled on that chalk dust that I spoke about just a few minutes ago.
Well, we've seen some big shunts in the past there. Remember, one for Matt Neal, touring car driver, a big accident many years ago. Mike Jordan and Godfrey Jones having a little conversation, no doubt wondering what the weather is going to do, because things are looking a bit changeable. Michael Caine in number 77, that's the car that Mike Jordan, of course, will take over later on in this race. They've been a great partnership this year, but missing out on a win so far this season. I wonder if they can play their strategy cleverly here, and they're certainly keeping the pressure on Anthony Reid in that Nissan.
Very much so. Michael's a very aggressive driver, and he'll be trying to keep the Nissan as close as he possibly can, and maybe capitalise on a mistake from Anthony that perhaps he makes in traffic.
Well, let's see what happens. Michael Caine, very experienced, of course. Let's see whether there's any chance. We're riding on board here with Anthony Reid. Watch out to the left. There is Michael Caine. Dives past on the brakes, but has he gone in too quick? That's always the danger at that corner. Looking good, though.
Absolutely, and he didn't need the traffic after all. Just a good clean overtake down at the Vale. Just braked really late and got his car down the inside.
Third and fourth. Chris Niarchos in the Ferrari in third place. In fourth place, we're on board with Ben Collins. Now, how are the conditions looking? Okay at the moment. Doesn't seem to be too much water on the windscreen. No clearing to be done. Oh, there's a mistake there from Chris Niarchos. Where was he going?
He was heading towards the gravel bend. Big lock-up from his left front tyre, and we saw him leave a big black mark on the road, and Ben capitalises, and he's got the place.
Chris Niarchos will be very angry with himself. He's so motivated, so fired up this year. He's improved massively as a driver. Very much a gentleman racer coming into this series, but wanting to perform at his best against the true professionals. And Ben Collins is one of those. He's an AE-class driver. He is a top professional racing driver. Chris will be kicking himself, but he won't give up on this. Ben Collins turning through Cops Corner, up into third place, but it's Andrew Cocotti who leads in the Ferrari. Neil Cunningham looking to take over that Porsche very soon. Stay with us here. Welcome back to Silverstone for the British GT race. It's a 2-hour race this time. Ben Collins is running in third place in the red and blue Porsche number 55, but in fourth position right behind him is Chris Niarchos. Now, Chris's teammate Andrew Cocotti leads the race overall, apart from Phil Keane in second place in the Mosler. But Chris Niarchos made a little mistake that allowed Ben Collins through a lap or two ago, and now he seems to want that place back, and in fact he's going on the attack into the Abbey chicane, late on the brakes, just locks a brake fractionally. Ben Collins comes back at him around the outside. Which of the cars is faster in a straight line? Nothing to choose between Ferrari and Porsche, and Chris Niarchos is trying to squeeze ahead, but Collins now has the inside line for Priory, decides to back out of it, and Chris Niarchos has third place again.
Fantastic. Just as you were saying before, Ben, as well, how well has Chris Niarchos matured as a driver this year? We see him racing door to door now with the very best professional drivers out there in the British GT category. Absolutely fantastic.
Must be all those lessons you gave him, Rob, but it certainly worked. He's now in third place, and he'll now be chasing after the man in second, but that's Phil Keane in the Mosler, and he's been putting in some pretty impressive lap times. He's dropped back a little bit from Andrew Cocotti, but still impressive. The Embassy team will be disappointed to see that they're back down into fourth place. Now, what's going on in the GT3 class. Phil Quay still leads. Ollie Bryant's in second. Dimitri Deverikos is in third place. And that team that had so much success early on in the year, the car number 9, there it is, just coming through. Yeah, in fact, it's taken second place from Ollie Bryant, although Bryant's going to try and come back at him on the Exeter Copse. Deverikos and Maserati could do with a bit of luck. They haven't had much recently.
Like Kinch and Kokotti, they seem to be a permanent feature of the top step of the podium in the opening rounds of the championship, but no, they've been sadly absent in the last few races. But great to see the difference in equipment in the GT3 category, the Porsche versus the Morgan, and two more different cars you couldn't wish to see.
That's right, the rear engine Porsche just ahead of us here, the big front engined Morgan, and Ollie Bryant, the youngster who's been so impressive in his debut season in British GT, very much on the attack still for second place in class. His teammate, and in fact the car owner, Keith Arles, celebrating his 50th birthday here at Silverstone this weekend. So they'd love to get a good result for a decent birthday present. But at the moment, running in third, that's still a good effort. They qualified a little bit off the pace in the class. And Ollie Bryant has driven a storming first stint here in the early stages. Now, Phil Quaife is the leader. A number of youngsters, of course, doing well in the GT3 category, but there's a problem there this time for Bryant. Surely he's just been passed by the Marcos.
And that Marcos was a good few hundred yards behind him just a couple of corners ago, so I do think he has a problem, like you suggest, Ben.
Yeah, suddenly going very much slower. Hard to work out what's going on. The car's still running, the engine sounded okay, but he's going much more slowly. Well, John Finnemore will be happy because Chris Baton has now moved up into third place in that Team Tiger Marcos. And, well, in fact, yes, look, Deverikos has taken the lead in the class. Marcos is still third, but it might be second any moment. Look at the windscreen wipers. They're flapping around now. The weather conditions definitely changing here. And Phil Quaife might be losing out on second. Yes, he loses out on second place. One of the cars in the invitation class also going through there, the number 31 car of Sam Edwards. But Phil Quaife, who had been leading that class for quite a while, dropping back and into the pits comes Ollie Bryant. I wonder what the problem is.
Broken wire or cable or something?
Broken wire or cable, he thinks. Maybe a transmission problem of some sort. Into the pits also after its trip into the gravel earlier on is the Hector Lester Ferrari, United Christian Broadcasters car, and Alan Simonson, in fact, getting into that car, and off goes Barry White in the Mosler. Well, we saw the windscreen wipers were going a moment ago, Rob. It is getting slippery.
It is, and you can see on the runoff there at Copse Corner where the gravel's been replaced with tarmac, we can see tyre marks left there, and another car in the gravel, the 78 Porsche.
Yeah, that's Stephen Bourness who's gone off as well. And look, riding on board with Ben Collins, the windscreen wiper doing its work as he comes through Abbey, and this is going to be pretty treacherous. They're all on slick tyres at the moment, remember. The track was bone dry to start with, but now it's getting quite greasy out there.
And yellow lights on the right there for the Porsche in the gravel trap at Priory. Big spin, and he's just gone off on the right-hand side, and Ben being very careful as he comes down into Brooklands.
Now, Phil Keane, running in second place to the Ferrari of Andrew Kokotti, is actually going pretty quickly in these conditions. If anything, he's managing to close that gap up slightly. There is the lead car. It's the number 35 Ferrari of Andrew Kokotti. Piers Maserati getting ready to take over the number 9 car in the GT3 class. Of course, let's see what's going on. And in fact, the Marcos is in front of the number 9 Porsche. Oh, they will slow down for the yellow, but Phil Quaife didn't. He went straight through between them.
I think Phil was just unsighted by both of the two cars ahead of him, and as they came round bridge into Priory Corner where the incident was, where the waved yellow flags, no overtaking zone was, he just didn't see it and went through the middle. So he'll now have to let those two cars back past him. But there's confusion behind. It's almost as if somebody thinks the safety car's out, perhaps.
Yeah, it does make it look that way. And of course, it's allowed everybody to bunch up together. You could see that Marco Attard was in there in the Ferrari, and also Chris Stockton. And look at this, Anthony Reid trying to get his position back from Michael Caine. I think he's done it.
He has. Just at the end of the hanger straight, just crept out from the toe from Michael's Porsche and went down the inside into Stowe.
So this is a battle that's ongoing, and maybe these conditions suit the Nissan a little better than the Porsche. I don't know, what do you think?
Possibly. I'd imagine the Nissan would just have the edge in handling, but the Porsche with the engine over the rear wheels would still have very good traction in the damp conditions.
Well, there's no doubt the conditions have worsened considerably. Look, the car's coming through Beckett's now. It is getting very slippery. Phil Quaife still under pressure there. Remember, there was that little incident under the yellows, and now Chris Baton wants to get the Marcos back ahead. Must make a quick mention, by the way, in the invitation class, Sean Edwards is leading it in the number 33 car. Oh, and off! Off has gone Chris Niarchos. He spun it into the Abbey gravel trap. That could spell the end of his race. Meanwhile, this GT3 class battle is as fast and furious as ever. Andy Britnell at the back of that group in car 23. Phil Quaife still trying to defend. And Marco Attard, I think, has got the black Ferrari ahead of them all. That's impressive effort because he was nowhere. Well, the Marcos is still just ahead of him. So Chris Baton leads the group, leads the class. But Marco Attard has come out of nowhere to move into second place. Good effort in the Ferrari. De Veracruz sliding a bit in car number 9. And these conditions will catch out the overambitious. There's no doubt. We've already seen Chris Niarchos go off just up here. That car in the gravel trap. Hopefully they're going to be able to pull it out, though.
Fingers crossed, but I'm not sure Tim Mullen waiting in the pit lane knows he's gone off yet.
Huh?
In the gravel.
It's gone into the gravel at Abbey.
No.
Now he does. Yeah, now he does. Unfortunately, I wonder if he's going to be able to get out at all. It depends whether they can bring the car back to the pits, I suppose. But look at the two leaders now. Andrew Kirkcaldy has been caught massively by Phil Keane as they come up to pass this area. Andrew Kirkcaldy, race leader in the Ferrari, and the Mosler is now right with him.
Phil really has developed into a bit of a young superstar, and well, it's fantastic. Really is a good run from him, and we see putting him under pressure into Bridge Corner there, and I'm sure he'll be looking for an overtake within a couple of corners or so. And round the outside at Priory, can he make it? There is slightly more grip round there, but no, just slid a little too wide.
Oh, it's exciting to see a young new talent in GT racing this year. He was driver of the day at Castle Combe. He put in a great stint there. Comes out of Formula Ford and then TVR Tuscans, but I think he surprised quite a lot of people, Rob, with his performance in this car.
Surprised a lot of people who didn't really know a lot about him. He came from TVR Tuscan Racing, as you just mentioned, with a very, very good pedigree and a real reputation for being fast and aggressive, but he sort of calmed his driving down a little bit and is proving to be a very quick, competent GT driver now.
Well, he's certainly putting the pressure on Andrew Kirkcaldy, but look at the rain falling. You really got a great view of it there. It's getting ever so slippery. And it just seems to me that the Ferrari is much more nervous in these conditions. There is Nathan Kinch, and it looks as though he's asking for wet tyres for when that lead car comes into the pit.
Yeah, they're putting the intermediate tyres back into the garage, and we just saw him make a W sign towards the pit wall as we see the two cars side by side. And has Phil Keane got the lead at Beckett's? Yes, he has. He's just crept through on the inside.
Well, that's very unusual. Andrew Kirkcaldy is being passed in a straight fight. I don't think we've seen that much in the British GT series this year, but Phil Keane is flying. Now, what's going on in GT3? It's still very, very tight in class here. Andy Britnell ahead of Dimitri De Veracruz. Phil Quaife in car number 96, the white and blue car, now having to try and protect his position from the Damax Ferrari of Jamie Smythe. As Steve Hyde gets ready to take over the Mosler that Phil Keane has just taken the lead of this race in. He has pulled away by a very big margin, but nonetheless he's in front in the number 69 car. And Eclipse Motorsport, who in the past have run TVRs, they're still really getting used to running this Mosler. They'll be delighted with that.
They will. John Griffith and all his mechanics have worked so hard on the car this season, and Eclipse have had some terrific luck at Silverstone in the past with winning the British Empire Trophy race 2 seasons ago now.
Yeah, they love this Silverstone circuit, and for once somebody has got ahead of Scuderia Goss, and the number 35 Ferrari just trying to stay on the track. Remember, they can still win the championship. Into the pits has come the Jones Porsche, so David handing over to Godfrey, but it looks as though there's a bit of clearing to be done.
Yes, there's a significant amount of grass cuttings in the front of that Porsche, Ben.
And other people choosing to come in now. It is quite wet out there. What tyres do you go on to? Do you put on full wets, thinking it's going to stay this wet, or do you go for intermediates, or perhaps even thinking it might dry out and stay on slicks?
Yes, Ben, it's a three-way gamble. Very difficult one to call as well, especially at this time of year where the ambient temperature is quite high. If it stops raining, the track will dry quite quickly. However, it is Britain and the rain might continue for hours. We just don't know.
So into the pits comes Andrew Kirkcaldy. Now he's going to hand over to Nathan Kinch. We think they're going for wet tyres. Also in Dimitri De Veracruz, handing over to Piers Maserati. And I think they're also going for wet tyres. Of course, the rain falling quite heavily at the moment. There's Andrew getting out and Nathan Kinch into the car, the tyres being changed, and so that is their choice. Now into the pits comes the Nissan of Anthony Reid. Be interesting to see what they choose. And at the moment Phil Keane is staying out there on his slicks.
He is. He's doing a great job. He's keeping the car on the black bit and off the green bit and circulating very, very rapidly in these deteriorating conditions.
So the number 35 Ferrari is almost ready to come back out on circuit. Everybody's still trying to second guess what the weather is going to do. Windscreen wipers still going pretty hard on that Mosler that's leading this race. And, well, what a result it would be if they could hold on, but there's still a long way to go. Remember, this is a much longer race than normal in British GT. Normally they're 1 hour races. This is a 2 hour race, so there's plenty of time to go yet. Now, Anthony Reid's climbed out of the Nissan. Michael Bentwood about to get in. They've got wet tyres ready. It's on slick tyres at the moment. I wonder what the choice is going to be there. Ben Collins, we're riding with him. He's still on slicks, of course. He hasn't been into the pits yet.
And he's really going to have to pit soon. It's literally like driving on ice when it rains and you're driving on slick tyres, and he's going to have to stop for something more appropriate, or else the Porsche will be off shortly, I think. And that's Nathan Kinch rejoining now.
So he's on full wet. Now there is the intermediate tyre, also next to the Nissan. They really are hedging their bets. Looks as though they're going to make a change, as our race leader in amongst the traffic, Phil Keane, still on his slick tyres, treading very carefully through the GT3 runners.
He is driving around the outside of the corners there as well through the complex. You'll find a lot more grip there than on the classic racing line.
Now, this is the car that Chris Niarkos spun into the gravel. Tim Mullen getting ready to take that one over, and Phil Quaife spins. The early leader in the GT3 class spins as he comes out of Luffield.
Yeah, Phil's pace has dropped off slightly as the rains come down. I think they probably had the car set up for dry conditions. It's not quite suited his driving in the wet weather so much.
Chris Payton bringing the Marcos in as well, so it is absolutely critical which tyres these guys all choose now. Phil Quaife seems to be stuck there at the moment, so whether there's another problem with that car, because normally you'd have expected him to pull away fairly quickly from that spin. Into the pits then, Chris Payton, John Finnemore will take over, but what are they going to do with the tyres? That's the question here. Will they stay on slicks? Well, let's go and join Alan Simonson. Now, Simonson has taken over the car that Hector Lester spun earlier on, if you remember, and he's out there at the moment with Tim Mullen. These are cars in completely different classes, but they're running very close together at the moment.
They are. He's got both the Scuderia Cos GT2 cars around him, so the GT3 United Christian Broadcasters car really putting in a strong performance.
Yeah, he is doing very well indeed. He's on slick tyres at the moment. You saw, by the way, from the classification that Sean Edwards in the invitation class is in a very good 4th place overall. That car basically running to GT3 regs, but not quite, so it has to run in the invitation class. The Marcos being refueled. Out of the car now, Andrew Kirkcaldy. He came in to the pits in 2nd place. Remember, Phil Keane had taken the lead. They have gone on to wets. Embassy have yet to stop. I wonder if they'll put their wet tyres on when they come into the pits in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to a rather damp Silverstone, where Neil Cunningham, the helmeted figure there, is waiting to take over from Ben Collins in the Embassy Porsche. Now, we've seen a number of teams choose to go on to wet tyres. Some have gone for intermediates, but in the last few moments the rain has eased, if anything, a little bit more. And I wonder what Embassy Racing is going to do here. Ben Collins ready to leap out. Neil Cunningham will take over. This is the only other car, apart from Scuderia Cos, to have won a race so far this season. What's their decision going to be, Rob?
I don't know. As Neil plugs himself in there, we've just got to look for activity from the mechanics to see whether they're going to change the tyres or not, so we'll just have to wait.
Well, into 2nd place, as a result of them coming into the pits, now comes the number 77 Eurotech Porsche. These two teams have had a great battle all year long, really, to be the top Porsche in the class, but it's still Phil Keane who leads the race outright in the number 69 Mosler. Michael Caine now 2nd, Neil Cunningham, who will be taking that car over, still being shown in 3rd place. And in the GT3 category, Piers Maserati going well here in car number 9, the championship leader. They put on full wets at their pit stop, and at the moment that certainly seems to be the right decision, because you can see it really is very, very slippery out there.
Yeah, lots of spray as they come through the middle of the Maggots-Beckett's Chapel complex, and wets are the way to go at the moment.
There is our race leader then. It is Phil Keane, but you can see how much those front wheels are moving as he tries to correct the slides.
Yeah, the car's moving around all the time. The slick tyres not finding a good bite on the surface, and he's working very, very hard behind the wheel. So another big slide as he came out of Brooklands corner there.
Engine sits in behind the driver in the Mosler like the Ferrari, but it's a fair lump of metal in there. Out goes Neil Cunningham. They have stayed on slicks. Well, that is a bit of a surprise.
That's a very brave call at this stage in the day. Whether they know something we don't about the weather, we'll just have to wait and see, but that's a brave call to stay on slicks. But it's suiting Phil Keane, and they've not shown any sign of stopping just yet either.
That's right. I'm sure the Embassy team have been watching the lap times that Phil Keane is doing, and they reckon that if Phil can stay out there on slicks, well, we're going to put Neil Cunningham out on slicks. Now he's got to get used to this. This is a difficult time for a driver, Rob.
Big slide there from Neil. Great shot from the onboard as we saw him just correct a slide in the first part of the Beckett's complex, and he's quickly got to find his feet and get used to these conditions.
There is Phil Keane right behind him, who of course is totally geared up for these conditions because he's been driving, developing with them, if you like. I think he's going to have a bit of a run on Neil Cunningham, yet there is the Mosler on the outside. Not a change of position because Phil already leading this race, effectively putting a lap on Neil Cunningham.
Yep, and both the cars running around the outside of Stowe Corner there again, looking for the extra grip away from the conventional racing line. And interesting to see Phil using so much of the painted curbs. They're normally very, very slippery, but he's finding some good grip on those. And there's the Jones brothers car off cutting the grass again, Ben.
Yeah, that's right. Godfrey off and picking up a bit more grass in that radiator duct. Just remember, though, that Phil Keane still has to make his stop. They've still got to come into the pits, have a stop. Mike Jordan also ready to take over from Michael Caine. They've been leaving it really to the last minute. Now, into the pits comes Tim Mullen. It looks as though he's been doing a bit of grass cutting.
Yeah, quickly sweeping the grass away from the front of the Ferrari 360 there. The Scuderia Cost Mechanics will be just checking that car over, and they'll try and get him out as quickly as we can as into the pits comes Michael Caine.
Yeah, now what will they do? It's interesting, Tim Mullen, although he's just been off, he has been very fast. He's on intermediate tyres and he's been setting some very good lap times. I wonder if that means Eurotech will change. Let's see, into the pits they come. Michael Caine leaping out. They're not allowed to refuel and do anything else other than clean the windscreen. They can't refuel and change the tyres at the same time. They have to be done as separate operations, so they'll do the fueling first, and then if they are going to change the tyres, they'll do that straight afterwards. Now, at last, here comes our race leader. So, Phil Keane into the pits on his slick tyres. Will he stay on slicks? He'll be handing over to Steve Hyde, of course.
Phil's done a fantastic job this afternoon. Did a great job to overtake Coddy for the lead and then just drove away from him. Fantastic stuff from the Eclipse driver.
Right, into the pits he comes. Now, Steve Hyde ready to leap in here. They've got some tyres ready. Are they going to go for the refueling first? Yes, it looks as though they are. And Steve Hyde getting ready to clamber aboard. Now, those slick tyres were working pretty well. He was setting some good lap times just before he came into the pits there. Oh, and Neil Cunningham's doing a drive-through penalty. Look how slowly he's going. Well, that's because his pit stop was a fraction short, and also he was speeding in the pit lane, so he's being ever so careful now as he comes down the pit lane.
Yeah, maybe slightly over-cautious there from Neil. Whether they've got a problem with the pit lane speed limiter, I don't know, but it's a shame for Neil to make that drive-through penalty, and he's going to have to push very, very hard now. But as we see, there's no rain actually falling onto his windscreen, so maybe that call for slicks was the right one.
Maybe. Still looks very greasy out there at the moment. There is Nathan Kinch. Now, remember, he's on full wet tyres, and at the moment, he was running in second place before Phil Keane came into the pits effectively. Now, there is the former race leader into the pits. They haven't changed tyres. Now, this is interesting. The discussion, they've left the slicks on. Slicks on that car. Mike Jordan has also gone out on slick tyres. And there's Godfrey Jones. Now, I think he's still struggling on his slicks, and that car, ooh, still sliding around a lot, isn't he? Oh, there's the Morgan back out, by the way. They've had to rebuild the gear linkage on that car. That was the problem with it earlier on. But coming around the outside, there is Steve Hyde on the slicks, on the Mosler. Oh, bit of a slide. Diana's with its former driver, Phil Keane.
Phil, that was a great stint. Was it enjoyable?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was quite tricky in the wet conditions on the slick. So just trying to stay out of trouble, really, trying to keep it on the track. But no, it was good.
Is it still on slick?
It is still on slicks. Yeah.
It's quite a gamble.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. It's dry out the back of the circuit, so see how Steve gets on.
Well, it's not going to be easy for Steve. Oh, and Simonson there, coming right up behind the Vauxhall Monaro in a bit more of a hurry than he expected. And the Dane managing to get back onto the track, I think, is he, via the grass. He really he had to sort of sort himself out there pretty quickly, Rob.
He did. I think he was worried about stalling, because we saw as soon as the car slid sideways, he lit the rear tyres up to ensure he kept the engine running. And is that the fight for the GT3 lead now?
It is. In fact, Chris Stockton leading that class, but not for much longer. Here comes Piers Maserati. Maserati just nips through, but Maserati's on the wet tyres, and Stockton is still trying to get round on the slick tyres.
So it's working well for the wet-tired cars at the moment. Piers Maserati just moving ahead. Stockton won't give up, but I think there's just a bit more traction available on the wets currently, and that's what Nathan Kinch is hoping for too. He's doing a fine job in number 35 car on those wet tyres. You can see only just a little ahead of him with the brake lights on is the race leader, Steve Hyde, in the Mosler. There's no doubt the Ferrari is catching back up, and we could see another change of lead here.
We could, and we saw also as the cars came out of club corner there that just a dry line was just starting to appear, and again into bridge corner you can just see the circuit starting to dry now.
Yeah, it's conditions changing all the time here. Nathan Kinch, though, has closed up that gap massively. He's got so much more grip than Steve Hyde. The wet tyres clearing the water. He's down the inside. Makes it look so easy. And Steve is just struggling to stay on the road at the moment. Even though those slicks were up to temperature thanks to Phil Keen's efforts, it is not easy out there for him. And it's Nathan Kinch who retakes the lead for Scuderia Ecos. Kinch and Cocotti could wrap up the championship here today, and they're back on target to do so.
They are, and Steve not acclimatising as quickly as he might like to the conditions, and we saw Nathan just cutting back past him there.
But will it stay like this? Because, you know, it's not really raining that much now. If these wet tyres start to overheat, if the track gets very dry, we could see quite a different complexion. They're not planning to make any other pit stops. There's only one pit stop really planned in this race. Oh, and off's gone Godfrey again. Godfrey Jones, oh, he's hit the ball. That's opposite the pits. Most embarrassing place to do that.
Yeah, spinning coming out of Woodcote Bend is always scary, and scary shot of his brother there as well.
That's right, Stuart Scott there with him as well. And I don't think too much damage was done. Stuart Scott driving with Steve Wood in the GT3 class, actually having their last outing here this weekend, but they're going well in that GT3 class at the moment. Steve's looking for a possible podium finish as we see actually Godfrey Jones getting the car running again and hopefully heading back towards the pits.
He'll need to make a pit stop to check the suspension over as we're riding on board now again with Neil Cunningham.
Here we are then, on board the Embassy car. He's on slick tyres, remember. Now, the windscreen wiper is still working away, but there are one or two little patches that might be drying out, I'm not sure, you know. The car behind them is the Nissan, and that looks faster, and that's on intermediate tyres. Here comes Michael Bentwood, determined to get the place back, and yeah, it looks fairly easy for him in the end. So Michael Bentwood moves into third place. Neil Cunningham's pushed back to fourth.
Great move there from Michael Bentwood on his intermediate tyres, and Diana's in the pits with Ben Collins.
Ben, you had a really strong start to the race, but you got to drive through penalties, so that's put you back down again. What was that for?
That was Neil's fault. No, it was, I think they said our stop was slightly too short by like a couple of seconds, which I don't know whose human error that is, either the stewards or the teams, but it's one of those little things, so Neil had to come back in. It's a shame.
Now in second place still is Steve Hyde with those slick tyres on. He's still struggling a little bit to get the feel of this car. Oh, and he's lost it. Back end slides out of Luffield. This could put second place in severe danger because Michael Bentwood's not too far behind.
He isn't. Unfortunately, Steve there just too hard on the power as he came out of the Luffield hairpin, and yep, Michael Bentwood's come through to make that place up again.
So second place for the blue Nissan. The other Ferrari there is Tim Mullen. Now he's a long way down because that car went off into the gravel earlier on. Although Tim is flying, he's setting some very, very quick lap times. But the Nissan is now in second place, which matches its best performance of the season so far. A problem for another. They might win this one. Make sure you stay with us. Welcome back to the British GTs at Silverstone. And for Embassy Racing, there's an opportunity here to take third place. Neil Cunningham is racing hard with Steve Hyde. Hyde in the Mosler. Oh, a big crossed up slide once again. This could give a great opportunity for Neil Cunningham, but I'm not sure he's going to get alongside into Beckett's.
Steve really struggling with the car under the reapplication of throttle. The back end really sliding on the Mosler there, and we saw a great shot from Neil as he just drives around him now in the middle pot of Beckett's.
I know Steve was telling me there's something a bit funny about the throttle application on this car. It tends to go over centre and makes it very difficult in these conditions, and he's definitely struggling out there a bit at the moment. Race leader is this car though, no great surprise there. It's the Andrew Cocotti Nathan Kinch car. Kinch at the wheel at the moment. Now look how he's moving across the road there. That's because he's trying to cool his wet tyres down.
Absolutely, shows that the pendulum is now swinging towards the runners on intermediates and the slick tyres. He's running offline nearly everywhere now, desperately trying to cool the rubber down on his wet weather tyres.
Well, what a chance this could be for Bob Neville there. RJN Motorsport, the Nissan is on intermediates, and that car is going particularly quickly. Michael Bentwood at the wheel. Anthony Reid drove the first stint, but Bentwood is definitely closing up on that lead Ferrari.
He is. Michael taking his racing ever so seriously at the moment. He's been training hard for this event. He's really wanted to show well against Anthony Reid, and he's pushing flat out now to catch the race leader.
While Diana is with Anthony in the pits.
But Anthony, still a bit of time to go, but at the moment things are sort of going quite well.
It's looking really strong for Nissan. We had a good solid first stint when I was in the car, and we stayed out when it started to rain. I think other people probably came into the pits a bit too early. And I think we made an inspired tyre choice. We put intermediates on the car. Michael got into the car. He's very good in these sort of conditions. And we're consolidating in second place at the moment. But fingers crossed, there's still 20 minutes to go in the race.
Is the car handling well?
Yeah, it's handling well. It's surprisingly well for such a new car. I mean, Bob Neville and his team privately have funded the car and developed it. And they've done a very good job on a shoestring budget.
Well, we won't say anything yet because there's still 20 minutes to go, but so far so good.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Anthony in the pits there with his Super Touring Nissan in the background. Former runner-up in the British Touring Car Championship in that car. But look, on board with Neil Cunningham, and look at the track. It is drying out considerably, and Cunningham on his slick tyres is flying, Rob.
He is. The arm of the swingometer has swung in the direction of the slick runners, and with the sun coming out now, although the track is still quite greasy as we ride with Neil coming around Brooklands, it will dry quickly, and he's finding lots of grip on the outside of Luffield there. He's going very, very rapidly in the conditions now.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, and let me just tell you, in GT3 it's similar because Piers Maserati's being caught by Chris Stockton, who's on slick tyres. You're right, the slicks are coming into their own now in both categories. There is the man on intermediates, that's Michael Bentwood. Now he is closing up on race leader Nathan Kinch on his wets, but behind both of them, Neil Cunningham is going faster than either. So we could be on for a three-way finish here towards the end of this race. Tim Mullen is still a way down, of course, in his Scuderia across Ferrari. And even Stuart Roden, the team boss, isn't quite sure if they've made the right decisions. There you are. Look, I told you Stockton had caught up with Maserati. Maserati can't fight him off any longer. Those wet tyres have had it, and Stockton takes the lead in GT3.
Stockton's car looking so much happier than Piers Maserati's there. He just drove around the outside of him, and he's already pulled out 5 or 6 car lengths on the exit of Luffield.
Steve Wood is currently running third in class. That would be a great result for him if he can hold it, but Alan Simonson is flying in the Ferrari behind him, so he's going to have to watch out. Meanwhile, riding on board here with Neil Cunningham, he is pushing so hard. Now that the track is dry, he's giving it his all. Can we see the Nissan up ahead? We're coming out of Club Corner. Well, it's still quite a long way up ahead. There it is, turning into Abbey, but Cunningham is closing that gap massively each lap.
He is. I'd say the gap from Club to Abbey is about 8 or 9 seconds, and Neil visibly is closing in lap by lap by lap.
Michael Bentwood, though very experienced, he'll just be driving to the ultimate pace these intermediate tyres can give him, looking perhaps to try and cool the tyres in a couple of areas. He is still catching the race leader, don't forget. He's still closing up on the Ferrari, but here is Cunningham, and he's gained a bit more through those last couple of corners, I'm sure.
He has. There's scope for catching even more as he comes round Luffield here. Michael's car will be sliding around, and we see Neil, just like we saw the GT3 runner on slick tyres a couple of laps ago, right round the outside of the corner, no drama, and he's pulled another couple of seconds there.
Still a long, long gap, though, to the lead Ferrari, even though we're into the closing stages of this race. The Ferrari out in front does have a comfortable edge, just depends whether he can hold it. In fact, yes, as they cross the line that time, 28 seconds the gap between the Ferrari out in front and the Nissan in second. Can they hold on? Diana's going to ask.
Been quite an eventful day at the office for you.
Yeah, it has. It was like this last year. It decides to rain in the middle of the race, and the problem is it doesn't rain properly, so it's very difficult to know what to do with tyres. And unfortunately, we went to wet tyres. It was a little bit of a miscommunication, and we should have really gone to intermediate tyres. But at the minute we're leading. The second place is catching us, but we do have a bit of a gap, so fingers crossed.
Nathan Kitch trying to pick his way through traffic, although in fact I think Alan Simonson's faster than him in that GT3 car. Look, he's driven around the outside. He is on slicks, mind you, and Nathan Kitch's tyres really have had it, and that gives you an idea how much they've had it. This is the battle for second though. Michael Bentwood in the Nissan, and look how much closer Neil Cunningham is in third place.
Lap 47, and Neil's caught Michael in just one lap. That was an awesome lap from Neil. He's pushing very, very hard. And he's on the back of the Nissan as he comes up to Woodcote.
Just imagine if he hadn't had that drive-through penalty, where he would be now. You know, perhaps they could have been on for the win, but it's still a huge gap to the lead Ferrari. Here we go, Cunningham going to the outside. Bentwood covers the inside, and Cunningham, oh, he's straight around the outside, makes it look easy.
He does, he does. Michael made a tentative attempt to cover the inside, and Neil waves as if to say thank you as they come up to Maggots.
So Cunningham now in second place, but he's way, way behind that lead Ferrari, and we're running out of laps. He's only got about a lap and a half to go here in order to be able to close up to the race leader. Well, you never know. It's said the impossible can happen. Neil's got to make it happen here today, and he's certainly going to give it his best attempt. Another instructor here at Silverstone, like yourself, Rob, and so he knows this place as well as anybody.
He certainly does. Neil's been instructing at Silverstone since the dark ages, and he knows exactly where to find the grip in these conditions. And as we see the Ferrari coming into club, Neil's pushing very hard coming around Stowe Corner.
But it's a huge gap, isn't it, between the two cars. I really wonder whether he's going to be able to do anything about that. He's just really got to get his head down. I'm not sure the team's even told him where he is. I think they've just told him go flat out all the way and see where you end up. And Nathan Kitch doing his utmost on those very worn wet tyres to go as quickly as possible.
And as we've seen, Kinch really is struggling on those tyres. Being passed by a GT3 runner gives you some sort of indication of where his pace is at, and Neil is going much, much quicker than he is now as he powers his way through Abbey down into the complex now at Bridge.
Yeah, we saw Alan Simonson go past him, as you say, and in fact Simonson up into third place in GT3. That's amazing when you consider that Hector Lester was off in the gravel in the early part of this race, and Simonson up to third place. But here we are with Neil Cunningham. Now, as they come around this time, they're going on to their final lap. The Ferrari has already come out of Luffield, heading through Woodcote Corner. As we now head out of Luffield, we can't see the Ferrari. Let's see what the gap is between them. Cunningham now just about to come across the line, and the gap is 7.8 seconds, but he's gained 12 seconds on that last lap, Cunningham. 12 seconds he's gained. We've got one lap to go, and the gap is 7.8 seconds. It is possible.
And I think Cristiano Michelotto and Andrew Cocotti's face told a story there. Cocotti just put his head in his hands, and we see the Ferrari mid-corner at Beckett sliding around and on board now with Cunningham. Yep, you can actually see the Ferrari ahead now.
Oh, what an incentive this is for Neil Cunningham. What an opportunity. Can he close up on the Ferrari? He's only got about half a lap in which to do it. Steve Hyde out there in the Mosley. He's struggled a little bit. Mike Jordan in the Eurotech Porsche. It looks as though Eurotech are going to have to give up any chance of winning the team's title. I think that's going the way of Scuderia Ecos. But what about this race victory? Can Embassy Racing come back from a drive-through penalty and put the pressure on Nathan Kitch? Cocotti doesn't really want to watch, I don't think. He's just waiting to see if they're going to make it. And look how close now Neil Cunningham is as they come out of Club Corner. Still a third of the lap to go, and he's right up behind the Ferrari, and they've got traffic to deal with as well. That's going to make life difficult for Nathan Kitch, who tries to hold a slightly narrower line on the way in. The car slithering around Cunningham's car, working to perfection. He's on the power, and he's alongside. Cunningham takes the lead on the last lap here at Silverstone. After 2 hours of racing, Cunningham's got ahead.
Neil's a hero, using the traction from the Porsche there, got on the power really well at Abbey and powered through, and it looks like he's going to take the victory here at Silverstone, Ben.
Amazing performance this from the Embassy crew. It looked like it had all gone wrong for them when they got that drive-through penalty. Jonathan France, the team principal, anxiously watching to see if they're going to be in front when they cross the line. They can't see the monitors, they don't know what's happening until the cars appear in view, but this is what they're going to see. It's a win for Embassy, for Neil Cunningham and Ben Collins. And Jonathan France is ecstatic. Second place goes to Nathan Kitch, third place goes to Michael Bentwood, and that's a great result in the Nissan. Their first podium finish of the season.
But these guys who raced in the Spa 24-hour race just last week have come through to take victory in the British GT event. Kinch and Kirkcuddy survived to finish second ahead of the Nissan, with Gavin Kershaw driving very well to take fourth in the end. And in GT3, Andy Britnell and Chris Stockton won as Alan Simonson snatched second on the line from Maserati.
The team did really well. You know, we weren't sure to go on onto wets. The boys sent us down on slicks, and when I first went out, I thought it was the wrong decision, and it paid back. The last 10 minutes, it all started to come back to us. But yeah, it was good. It was good. It makes up for Castle Keem a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, very pleased. Excellent tyre choice. You know, it's a shame we didn't get second, but the Embassy was on slicks, and just the difference was huge. We qualified P6. It was a good effort, and I've had a quick teammate this weekend with me, so you know, well deserved and about time too.
So Andrew Kirkcuddy and Nathan Kinch will have to wait until next time to wrap up the title. They're on the verge of doing it. Tim Mullen and Niarchos in third place, and Collins and Cunningham in fifth. In GT3, Maserati and De Vericos still lead, but Alan Simonson has brought himself and Hector Lester up to third overall.
Well, congratulations to Ferrari. That result means that they've won the team championship, but the drivers' championship, well, that will have to wait until next time out when we go to Mondello Park in Ireland. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.